Welcome back, guys. We are driving to the gym once again, and today there was something that happened a couple of days ago that I was just thinking would be interesting to talk about and kind of explore the idea more for myself, because it was something that happened pretty briefly, and I was thinking, I have some thoughts about this, but I won't think about it. I'll wait until I'm in the car and can then just, explain these thoughts that I'm having out loud and kind of think more about it. So this happened while I was in the sauna, just talking to a guy, and he seemed like a successful guy. He was talking about, properties that he had bought, and he seemed to be doing pretty well. So one thing that he said that kind of stuck with me was just, in very brief conversation, he kind of touched on this and said, I don't know how we came up on this, but he said that the student loan crisis was it was due to a law. And he said, like, oh, I don't want to be political, but when the Republicans passed this law that stopped student loan borrowers from declaring bankruptcy, that created the student loan crisis. And it just kind of opened my eyes to, even more to the idea that, so many people have different points of views on all of these different things in life. And it's interesting to hear. I mean, that's not the view that I would have expected to hear from someone who was, seemingly well educated and was doing well in life. Because, to me, I tend to be more of an independent than anything. But to me, the student loan crisis always seemed more like it was the fault of, I don't know which political party was actually in power that passed the whatever bill allowed for all of these government-backed student loans to exist, but I always assumed that was the real cause of the student loan crisis. Now, you can look at it the other way and say, yes, okay, the bankruptcy bill, whatever stops these students from declaring bankruptcy with their loans, that's technically a cause of the student loan crisis, because otherwise they could just declare bankruptcy and there wouldn't be all of these excessive student loans that people couldn't pay back. And you could say, yeah, so that's the cause of the crisis, but it's not the cause, it's not the root cause of any crisis, right? It's only the cause of a student loan crisis. If you didn't have that law, then what you would have, all else being the same, is a bankruptcy crisis, because everyone would take out these loans and then declare bankruptcy. And that wouldn't be good for the credit scores of all of those new college students who just got out of college and decided to declare bankruptcy, or, for people who needed to do it later in life after realizing they couldn't pay the loans back. And it still wouldn't really solve the issue, which to me seems to be that college has gotten incredibly expensive. And what I was kind of saying earlier is my understanding is that the reason college has been able to get so expensive is that when the government started backing all of these loans and just throwing money, to pretty much any college student who wanted to go to college who could show financial need, that allowed these colleges to start ramping up their prices, because now there was way more demand for college than there naturally would have been. A lot of people just couldn't have afforded to go to college, and thus wouldn't have gone. But now there's a ton of people can now theoretically afford in the moment to go to college by taking out these government-backed loans that the government's providing pretty easily and accessibly to, most people, if you can show that you can't afford to go to college. And in my mind, my understanding at least, is that that's what then allowed for these college prices to get really out of hand, and thus is the root cause of the student loan crisis, which is, now people are just taking out loans to go to college, and prices have gone up tremendously, so they're taking out bigger loans. And oftentimes those are tough to pay back, especially if you don't end up getting the kind of salary that you were expecting when you get out of school. Because now more people have a college degree. It's not as rare. And so the supply of college degrees has gone way up, meaning that the price that an employer has to pay for someone with a college degree, as long as the demand, stays the same or doesn't increase as much as the supply of new college students, it means that the price an employer has to pay has gone down, right? So, it's kind of this double-edged sword where by implementing these government-backed loans and allowing a lot more people to go to college, they devalued the college degree to an extent because now more people have it and it's less of it might be equally sought after, right? As many people might be looking to employ college graduates as before, but now there's way more college graduates, and so you don't have to pay them as much because it's not as hard to find one who's willing to do the work. And then on top of that, the colleges can charge more because there's all these loans and people can take out, theoretically, a ton of money to go to college. And they can pay the colleges, and the colleges get that money up front when people pay their tuition. And then it's, it's the borrower's problem and the bank's problem and the government's problem after that. So that's my understanding of it. And there was no time to explain this to the guy in the sauna. I briefly mentioned, I always thought it was, the fact that the government had all of these government-backed loans that they were handing out. I just briefly said that, and he said, if we got rid of the bankruptcy rule, that stops students from declaring bankruptcy, a ton of people would declare bankruptcy, and then they'd start lending money a lot smarter. And maybe, but it doesn't, I don't know. Because if these loans are government-backed, then, I'm not super well educated on this topic in particular, but my understanding would be it doesn't matter, because if they're government-backed, then whoever's lending the money, the government's going to back that loan even if someone were to declare bankruptcy. It is my understanding of, these federally subsidized student loans. And so they'd be just as willing to lend it to people, right? Because, these banks don't care. And if, let's just say that they were more strict about who they were going to give these loans out to, that would kind of defeat the purpose of having the government subsidized loans, because the idea was that you would give these loans to people who otherwise, probably wouldn't qualify for private loans. And the reason they wouldn't qualify is because these private lenders wouldn't believe that they had a good chance of paying the loan back. And so to say that they would be more strict about who they're loaning money out to would basically be saying, well, all of the, or most of the desired effect of having these government-backed loans would go away, because they wouldn't be loaning the money out to people who couldn't afford or wouldn't qualify for private loans anymore. So, what's the point, right? If you could qualify to begin with, then you didn't need the program that made these easier to qualify for loans that people then end up not being able to pay back. So, it seemed like maybe he hadn't completely thought this through. Maybe there's something that I'm missing too out of all of this. But that was just my understanding of the situation. But it was just interesting to see that people, even well-educated people, and, maybe it's happening to me where I'm just not thinking fully about this issue and I'm missing something here. But it was just interesting to see that, people kind of form these views and then just kind of stick with that, and it kind of goes along with the narrative. I got the sense that he was more left-leaning and so wanted to blame, he said Republicans passed this bill, and he probably, if I had to guess, Democrats probably were the ones who were in favor of federally subsidized loans, would be my guess. I don't know, but that would make sense to me. And he doesn't want to blame that if he's more left-leaning. And so it's just interesting to see. Now, for anyone who's curious, I kind of don't even find myself in the middle of anything. I think that the lines of right and left are kind of arbitrarily drawn. And that's a big topic, so I'll save that for another day. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.